to you tuning in from, gosh, it could be YouTube, it could be Facebook or Twitch or Periscope or LinkedIn, wherever you are watching us from. I am Amber Vilhauer, the host of the Elevate series, which is a live stream show that I started right at the beginning of COVID back in March. And it was just a way to bring some amazing humans together and have a really great conversation about how we can share wisdom and help each other through this time, because times are wild right now. Whether you are in business, whether you're a stay-at-home parent right now, we are all experiencing change, grief. We're trying to persevere and just move ahead the best that we know how. And the reason I was so excited today is because I have like an all-star lineup. These are amazing humans with very powerful, important messages to share. We have Darrell Stinson, Isaac Stegman, and Jimmy Farris. I want to kick it off by asking you three to just jump in with some tip, a tool, a strategy, something of value that can really help business owners out there today. Right? So we have some business owners that have succeeded. They've grown their companies during this time, and they might be experiencing growing pains. We also have businesses that failed. They had to go into bankruptcy and what those people are experiencing right now. We also have business owners that are somewhere in between. They're just trying to hold on. Based on what you believe, what you're experiencing in your own businesses, what you talk about day to day, which we'll get more to in a moment, what's a tip you guys can each share that's of value to business owners right now? Anybody can go first.
All right.
Darryll, you freaking rock.
That's perfect. So there's so much going on right now in the world and in our businesses, and it's easy to get caught up in all the things we could be doing and add them to our core model and say, okay, we're also going to be doing this, and we need to add that. We need to take this into account. And what I found, just not just now, but overarchingly, a really clear focus on, so clarifying and then prioritizing the things that really matter in your business. So a clear focus on your priorities, eliminating the things that are just noise right now is the most important thing in my mind that you can do. So defining this is what matters, and then having what I call a strategic ignorance to everything else. Just choosing not to have that be in your world, on your mind. Not that we need to be unaware of the things that are going on, but just that we need to be really, really clear about the things that matter and our execution on those things. Otherwise, we get analysis paralysis, right? We're thinking about everything and we don't do anything. So that would be, I guess, my one tip. And
love that.
Next one, I'll do that now.
Darryll or Jimmy, what you got?
So I'll go so that the black guy doesn't have to go last, because that would be really, really bad right now. I know. Look, you got to be able to laugh in the middle of chaos. Too early, Darryll. Too early. There's three things that I'm very passionate, and our team at Second Chance Athletes is very passionate about helping people to focus on to achieve anything they want in life and in business. Those three things are your mindset, your skills, and your network. If you have any of those three things, you are going to be successful, no matter if you're talking family, business, career, whatever. You have to develop the right mindset, you have to have the right skills, and you have to have the right network. And so in this time, whether you're getting hit hard or you're prospering, it's still about your mindset, your skills, and your network. Reach out to people who can help you, because there's people who are in the same situation that you are and can help you just make little tweaks to do better in your life.
Love that. Darrell's the best. Jimmy.
One of the things we talk about with Be a Pro is the first P, which is the idea of being prepared. And preparation involves, like Isaac touched on it, having clarity, like knowing exactly what it is that you're getting prepared for, and then putting a plan in place. And the reality is right now, with kind of the chaos and the way so many things have changed, a lot of people are still kind of operating from the same plan that they had before the world changed. And
Right.
So we have to make sure that we have the right plan in place. So, once you kind of identify, okay, the landscape has changed and we're going to need, some new tools, new strategies, some new methods to move forward, put that plan in place, kind of identify exactly what that is, imagine what the ideal outcome is, and then put those practices into place. It's really about flexibility. It's kind of that, innovate or die, adapt or collapse idea. You can't keep running the same plays, the same game plan when the landscape has changed. And so you get clear on exactly what it is you want to focus on. Imagine the ideal outcome, and that'll kind of give you some ideas about, you work backwards from there. Okay, well, this is ideal. This is where we need to get. Work backwards from there to put that plan in place. It's going to require a new plan. The old way, the old normal, it just doesn't, it really doesn't equate anymore. And so you got to put a new plan in place, but it's got to be the right plan focused on the right outcome.
I already know the direction that this conversation is headed in, because I know the power sitting in this room right now and the depth and the heart that's in this room right now. Our world is hurting right now. We are trying to come back together. We need powerful leaders now more than ever to stand up, to take a stand, to use their voices, which is why I'm grateful for the three of you today. But that responsibility needs to shine down to those of you that are listening right now, right? You have a responsibility right now. And so I would ask that you, in exchange for the value that we're going to be sharing for you today, I would just ask that you help us get the word out about this conversation. Simple as that. So if you can do me a favor, tag just two people that you know into the comments below. Share this on your news feed. If you're over on Facebook, then start a watch party. We need to get the right messages out right now, and this is going to be one of those opportunities. So please help us. In answering that question, what can business owners do right now? My answer would be focus on relationship and service. I think it is extremely important that you choose your network carefully right now, those who you are really aligned with. I think that some of the recent events that have happened in the world has really shown us who is in our network, right? And I know for me, I want to align myself with people that share similar core values of service and love and connection and excellence, which also speaks to the people that I have surrounded with me right now. And developing those relationships, being there for the people that matter in your life, and being of service first to those relationships and to your communities, that is the new way, right? As like Jimmy was talking about, that is the way forward. I want to pivot now and have you each go around and really give us a little bit more of your story. And Darryl, I am just forever drawn to you. I was mentioning that before we went live. Darryl sent me a message, what was that, 6 months ago, that seriously, it knocked me off of my chair. It was so meaningful and so important. It was like one of those messages in life that you save forever. And it is the first thing that you see in my business journal. There's Darrell's face. It's this beautiful message that he sent me. And I really appreciate that Darryll shows up for others, and he has a depth that you just don't see in the world. So Darryll, tell us a little bit about your story. I really want everybody to know what you're up to as Second Chance Athletes.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Jackson, Michigan, and I went to Central Michigan University to play football and basketball. A lot of people don't know that part of the story. Fire up chips, gotta throw that out there. Just like many other athletes, I wanted to be the best athlete of all time. I didn't want to be like Mike. I wanted to be better than Mike. And, I had an injury at the end of my freshman year that should have ended my career. I had a back surgery because I was trying to impress people with how much I could squat. Long story short, since sports was who I was and not what I did, I signed a liability waiver to come back on the field and play so that the university would not be liable for my injury or my death. And I put my body through 2 years of drug addiction to numb my pain to continue to play the game. I also had to pay for I hate starting with my story because I feel like it disqualifies me in so many ways. Like, why should I listen to this guy? But I had to pay for my medical expenses out of my own pocket. And so I started to sell drugs throughout the state of Michigan to be able to do so. So I went like this for 2 years, and you can watch my TEDx talk for more overcoming rejection when people hurt you and life isn't fair. But inevitably, I was taking so many opioids to the point it was thinning my blood to every time I made contact on the field, my nose would bleed. And the coaches saw that I was doing something wrong. They kicked me off the team. And that's when I was forced to face the depression, the fact that, Jimmy mentioned, I wasn't prepared to pivot in my career after sports. I didn't know who I was. I had got lost in my identity as a Black kid who, quote unquote, talked and acted white. And so I had to face all of that because football was no longer that outlet. And that sent me into a deep, dark depression where I attempted suicide multiple times and ended up in a psychiatric unit. And thankfully, I had a life-changing encounter there in that psychiatric unit that really gave me this like hope that, man, there's something to my life other than sport. And I started to chase that and figure out what that was. Spent about 5 years researching purpose and watching TEDx talks and videos and studying everybody's stuff and buying everybody's things and courses and going to leadership experiences and praying and mentoring, asking questions, like everything that was self-discovery and development. I was like a religious about. And I came to this place to where I didn't just love my life, but I loved it more than my life as a former athlete. And then I started to review and ask, how in the world did I get here? And started to share that process with others.
Gosh, beautiful story. We're going to dig into that more. Jimmy, what's your story, man?
Oh, it's not that interesting. No, I'm just playing. It's my story came from a small town in Idaho, set a goal at 10 to play in the NFL, literally wrote it on a sheet of paper that my 5th grade teacher handed out the first day of class. I still have it, still have the paper. It's one of the things I kind of present in our Be a Pro seminar. So just went about the process literally at 10 years old of, trying to figure out what it would take to get from where I was, a 10, 11-year-old with that goal to make it happen. And, I was really fortunate to have a lot of people along the way, my parents to start with, coaches and friends and different people I met along the way that, helped me build the type of mindset, the type of work ethic, helped me understand, commitment, dedication, sacrifice, all of those kind of things that, led me to have an All-American college football career at the University of Montana, and then signed with the 49ers in 2001, undrafted. Later that year, ended up with the Patriots, won a Super Bowl, and then spent the next 6 years with the Falcons and the Redskins. I officially retired from the NFL in 2009, and, was like a lot of guys when you retire. I was 30 or 31 and spent, over 2/3 of my life devoted to football, devoted to being the best I could be, the best athlete that I could possibly be. And, here I was 30, 31, kind of coming down off the mountaintop and thinking, what do I want to do with my life? I knew I wanted to climb another mountain, but I'm standing kind of in the valley thinking, what mountain even is that? What do I really want to dedicate my time and my energy to? Didn't know anything other than doing what I loved. Didn't know anything other than pouring everything I had into it. And so I really struggled for a number of years trying to figure out exactly what it was that I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to try to add value. I knew I wanted to obviously be in purpose, do something that was meaningful to me. But, right when my career ended, and not voluntarily, by the way, I'm one of those guys that the NFL basically ended my career for me. So it wasn't voluntary. And so I wasn't ready to give that up. But at the same time, I was kind of faced with that question that all athletes or really anybody kind of coming down off of a mountaintop or knowing that they need, that there's going to be a big change in their life. You start asking questions. And I was asking all the wrong questions about what my future was going to look like or what I wanted to do. And so the last, 8 to 10 years have been a process of figuring out exactly where do I want to devote myself? What am I passionate about? What do I really, really want to commit to? And what impact do I want to make? And, we've obviously answered some of those questions. That's why we're here today. And, it's just one of those journeys, one of those struggles that I think a lot of people go through. And definitely think that, having gone through it myself and having found some of those answers, we've got something to offer for people in that position.
I already have so many follow-up questions, but Isaac, you're the man. You got to go. Tell us your story.
Well, that'd be easy to follow these guys. And really, this is like a football theme because I was the third best free safety on my 6th grade flag football team. So I have a track record of football excellence as well there. After that, I went on through school and I bought drugs occasionally. But after I didn't have the kind of stories these guys had through that, had it pretty easy. And then after high school, I went to college, failed almost all my classes, including bowling, which is really hard to do. So that's I'm one in a million categories there, and dropped out of college because I was working 2 jobs. I was working from like 3:30 in the morning until 8 at UPS loading trucks, and then I'd go to school from like 9 to 3. And then I'd go to my job at the zoo, making $4.15 an hour selling glow sticks outside in the freezing cold in Seattle. And then I'd do my homework and go to bed. And that was like what I would do every single day. And fortunately or unfortunately, I wasn't good enough to keep either of those jobs at Christmas time. They laid me off of both of those, had another quarter to pay for. And so I just looked in the newspaper because I'm old, and that was how I used to find a job. And so I looked in the newspaper and found that there was this company hiring at $10.25, which was like more money than I could imagine at that point as a college student. And it happened to be selling knives. And so
let's go, baby. Yeah.
I've never sold anything before. And like that, selling drugs would have come in handy. I would have known how to sell. I didn't know how to sell anything. So I figured though I could out hustle anybody and do more appointments than anyone. And so that was my whole angle, was I was just going to not sell anything, but they were still going to pay me. I went on and did actually very well in that role because I didn't try to sell. I just, cared about people and added value and worked really hard. And that's where I really fell in love with learning. So, studying people like Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and just learning a lot of these things. Les Brown, one of my favorite right now. Like, man, that kind of thing just juiced me every day. And so I fell in love with motivation. I fell in love with being a better person and getting better all the time. And so I'd be the sponge. I would just listen to everything I could, watch everything I could. Ended up doing well in that company. And then I decided to go in the military, went in and was in the 82nd Airborne for 3 years. And then got out of that and it was interesting. I remember like watching the Twin Towers go down, sitting on our duffel bags, like just everything that's happening right now is kind of bringing up some of the big events, big trauma, nationwide, worldwide traumas that have happened, and like how that really causes us to refocus and reconsider and shift kind of who we are and how we are in this world. That's the kind of thing that matters. And so, was in the 82nd, then I got out and I was a firefighter in the Air Force for a while because I couldn't get on a civilian department and wasn't making the list. So I like hacking, I figured out a way.
Oh, hard.
Figured out the way. So wouldn't even make the list civilian. So I said, all right, if I go in the Air Force, I can get my certifications. I'm worth another $120,000 to these departments. So I did that. After I got out of the Air Force, I ran a district office for Cutco, and then that was in Georgia, and then moved back here, I moved back to Seattle, the Seattle area. So got a job finally on a fire department there, and that was my career. I was set. I had a business on the side, and I had my full-time firefighting gig, and I loved it. I loved helping people, and my mom always used to call me the rescuer because I just save everybody. So I was a full-time firefighter, and that was my lifelong thing until I got hurt really bad at a fire and got medically retired by the state. They'd say, you'll never do anything like this again. That was kind of traumatic for me because it was a big shift. I felt lost for a while. That was a place where I found the brotherhood again, that, coming from the military, and I did play sports after 6th grade, so I like that camaraderie. So I found that in the fire service, and I was kind of lost without it. I was like, where's my community? Where do I plug in to this thing? And my best friend at the time was running a real estate team, and he wanted to travel the world and run Ironmans. And so he knew that I had experience managing teams and was really good with teamwork and culture. He hired me to come in and run his team for a year. And we did, and we crushed it that year. We started coaching other teams on how to build out their team. And that was how I got into coaching. And then he went back to running his team. I went to build out this coaching company. And so that's for the last few years, we've been focusing on building out Kaizen coaching. And that's how I met you and where we're at today.
Amazing. If those of you watching, we've just heard a lot of history and there were so many nuggets. And there were several themes in common as well amongst their stories. If you have any questions for Darryll, Isaac, or Jimmy, put them into the chat comments below. My team is there chatting with you and welcoming you, and we are here for you. So feel free to ask us any questions. You know, in my story, I had that same sort of big shift moment, except mine happened much younger than any of you. Mine happened when I was 16. Really, arguably, it started when I was 13. And I went into a private school environment, very small class size. And for whatever reason, I never fit in school. I mean, from kindergarten until the minute I graduated, I was like, I never felt like I belonged. And it was always a big question mark in my soul. And I just kind of thought, like, what's that about? Why am I not good enough? Why doesn't anybody want to be my friend? And private schools just really exaggerated that. There were like clear divisions, and I was, not the richest person in my school. So maybe that had part to do with it. I'm not really sure. But for me, I'm already a sensitive person and I'm a little bit of an introvert, and I take things personally and seriously. And so what you saw like over the years is I just started to suffer more and more, and it was internal. In fact, many years later, I wrote a book about my life, and I called it Rescuing Me, A Teen's Journey from Lost to Found. And the things that I wrote in that book, my own parents read that and they thought, I knew you were going through stuff, but I had no idea that you were going through some of these things. And when we're suffering, when we're in pain, it's hard to talk. It's hard to use that voice. And I remember asking for help in my own way, but honestly, I was failing out of classes. I was lying. I got grounded. I mean, my mom will tell you probably every weekend, and she tried everything to inspire me, talk to me, do all of these different things, and nothing was working. I was just in pain. And I just felt so lost and so worthless. I really did. And there was this rock bottom moment when I was 16. The details of that night don't really matter, but that night I was jumped by 5 girls, and it sort of matched what I already felt like in the inside, just beat up. And that night I really faced myself for maybe the first time. And I remember just thinking, like, now what? Is this really my life? I mean, I'm 16 years old. Is this the way it's going to be? And that question scared the hell out of me. I mean, I just kind of could see ahead, if I continued down this trajectory, what would happen. And I realized in that moment that nobody was going to save me. I had to save me. And so I started to look at what kind of a person would I be proud to be? And how would that person be making decisions? And so it felt like, oh my gosh, a Mount Everest goal to try to better myself. But decision by decision, day by day, I just kept focusing on who I wanted to be, not who I felt good enough to be right now. And I ended up graduating with honors. I repaired the relationship with my parents. It took me a long time. Like, dude, it's not some overnight success story. It took me years to craft this identity. And to then craft relationships outside of myself, and then to build this life that I have right now, which is amazing, with a business that I love, surrounded with people that I have total respect and admiration for, like the 3 of you on this call right now. And I tell you that side of the story because I really want to dig into, what do we tell people who are experiencing that moment that feels rock bottom? It feels like they're lost. They have to make a shift. Whatever was working before isn't working now. I was totally blindsided. None of this was my fault. I didn't create it, but now my whole life is different and I don't know what to do from here. I don't even know who I am anymore. What do we tell people? What tools, tactics, strategies?
Mindset, skills, network. Your mindset is simply the story that you're telling yourself. It's your mindset, and it lives in your subconscious. The narrative you tell yourself, if I'm not going to make it through this, it's too hard, I don't know what to do. The more you tell yourself that, the more you experience it in your reality. That's the bad news. The good news is it's that easy to switch it. All you have to do is tell yourself a new story. So you shape your mindset and you tell yourself, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to come out this better than when I went into it. Like everything happens for me, not to me. Whatever, self-talk. You develop your mindset. Then you go, skills. I need new skills. I'm in the speaking industry, and all of my speaking engagements, boom, canceled, postponed. 2021. I say good news is they didn't ask for their deposits back.
Yeah, no kidding.
But the bad news is that they didn't pay the rest of the balance. And, you make plans as a leader because you're just going up. And so we had to develop new skills. Virtual workshop is a skill. That's why I have the DJ microphone and the headphones. It's a skill, learning how to communicate my personality online in the same fashion that it would show up in person. Because I want people to feel the energy of Darryll. I don't want them to get like the sad Darryll that's sitting in the corner of his closet. I want them to feel my energy. Skills. And then network. You've got to find people like Amber and Jimmy and Isaac and all the people that are headed in the direction you want to go, whether they're ahead of you or right here beside you. Because if you're a warrior and you're right beside me, we can make it together. And that's what we need.
Beautiful.
I love
Amber,
it.
Go ahead, Isaac. Go ahead.
I love, Darryll, that you put the network in there, because I was just thinking, man, I know we can all think at times when we know we should have changed our mindset and told ourselves a different story and didn't have it in us, right? And I believe that sometimes we all need someone that's just going to grab us when we can't see it for ourselves and grab us by the shoulders and look us in the eyes and say, man, I believe in you. I believe in you when you don't believe in you, right? And this is and tell them, this is the shift for your mindset. This is the thing that's the truth that you're not seeing, which then goes right back into the skill set that they can build, and then the network that they can build off of that too. So I love that you incorporate that, because it makes it like a really cyclical thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up something. I think we as leaders have to do a really great job of reaching out, shaking people, speaking to their identity, their purpose. But I also think that we as leaders have to start sharing our kryptonite too. And I think there's this fear that meekness is weakness, or that if I have kryptonite that I can't be Superman. And you can have kryptonite and still be Superman or Superwoman, Amber. So I think we have to, as leaders, do a better job of being like, I'm leading and I'm bleeding. And I say it this way, vulnerability is the Batman signal for love. I think there's a lot of leaders desperate for love, but they won't show the signal of vulnerability. Like, I tell you, I know some people who are commanding like high level speaking fees way beyond me. And I know them and I see them, and from social media, it looks like they're killing it. And then I reached out to them. I was like, man, oh my God, like I lost my speaking income. Like there's only not enough people are buying the online course for me to like replenish what I lost, like help, and then they're like, dude, me too. And I was like, what? I thought you were crushing it, And it was like, man, I wish you would have reached out to me, because here I am like feeling insecure, and you're not even like doing as well as I thought you looked on social media. So I think it's a two-way street. As leaders, we have to call it out. And as leaders, we have to model vulnerability.
I love that you just said that, and it struck something in me. I'm all about developing connection online. And when people came online, they didn't really know how to do that anymore. You even said, Darryll, like, how do I get my personality to come out online? And I definitely think that where was I going with that? I just totally lost my train of thought. That's terrible.
It was so good though.
This is what happens online, right? So you just kind of have to go with it. What were you saying, Darryll?
I said it's good. Like whatever you were about to say, we know it's good. We're just going to give you the affirming head nod right
it's
now.
Something about, when I'm connecting with somebody and, you start a call and on that call, they say, how are you? I don't just say I'm good. How are you? Because there's no depth. You can't connect with people in that way. So instead, especially like right when COVID first hit, I would say, gosh, I'm really stretched thin right now. I'm good. Like I'm focused. I want to do the right thing. I'm focused on service, but I have to tell you, like I'm stretched really thin right now. I'm sleeping more than ever before. I'm finding it hard to keep my energy levels up the way that I used to. And when I start a conversation that way, it's amazing how much it transforms the rest of the conversation, because then the other person will reciprocate and say, gosh, I know exactly what you mean. And it sets off this trail of real. And I have to agree with Darryll that is what is absolutely so important right now. And this is how you create connection with people, is being open, honest, and real, especially when you forget what the hell you're going to say. You're alive and you're like, well, that's just the way it goes sometimes. So I love calling that out as a teaching point, because it might happen to you and it's okay. Nobody's expecting you to be perfect and polished all of the time. They want real. And when people get to see how you respond in those moments, that's what they remember. That's what has that impression.
Yeah.
Jimmy, what do you keep thinking over there? I feel like it's bottling up in you in this conversation.
It looks like he's in ultimate deep thought right now.
I kind of feel like you felt when you were listening to all of our stories. It's like I have like 5 or 6 different points. I think kind of going back to just what you said, well, a couple things. So you talked about being real. One of the things about, and this, I love what Darryll said about vulnerability. Being vulnerable allows you to get real. And a lot of times when the chips are down, so to speak, kind of how you introduce this topic, talking about people that are going through something that they didn't cause, they didn't expect it. They're looking like, my life's work potentially is on the line. I got wiped out. Our pride sometimes can keep us from getting real about what the situation is. And when we're not real, then number one, we're preventing ourselves from, being able to assess the situation for what it really is, and, figure out what new skills and new tactics we might need to implement to move forward. But it also really blocks other people's ability from coming in to help us, because you'd be surprised how many people are willing to help you if they know what the problem is and if they understand the state of your situation, right? But a lot of times we're so afraid to really keep it real with people that, like Darryll said, they're thinking, man, he's good. Everything's good over there. So he doesn't need me to reach out or lend a hand or, try to step in and offer something. And so being vulnerable allows you to be real, which allows other people to step in and give you the help you might need. And it gives you kind of a clear place to start from, to say, all right, this is what the situation really is. And when you're clear on that, then you can put things in place to really move forward effectively. Because if you're not real about what it is, you're going to try to do things and move forward that aren't going to move the needle, because they're solutions to a problem that's actually much deeper than it is. And the second thing, really quickly, is you mentioned something about when you were, when you were young and you were going through what you were going through, and you said, I just asked myself, who do I want to be, or what do I want to be, regardless of whether I think I'm good enough for that right now, right? So you saw your ideal future, being better than what you thought was possible, what you thought you were capable of, or maybe even what you thought you deserved, right? So a lot of people, when they're going for something and they're setting a goal or they're visualizing, their future, they think of it in terms of what they think they can get, not what they really want, and we've gotten so beaten down by the world, since we were a kid, and we used to just say like, oh, I want to be an astronaut, right? And didn't even think whether or not it was possible. We just knew we wanted to do that. When you get older and you get beaten down by the world, and you start thinking in terms of, well, what's possible for me? What do I think I can actually get? And I'm going to set goals and set a vision based around that. Point being that in times like this, when things are really down, You have to find the ability to visualize the outcome that you want, not what you think is possible. You know, given I hear so many people say to me all the times, well, hey, you know, right now and, you know, till the end of the year, I don't really think that this is going to be possible. I don't really think I'm going to be able to do this. Like, you don't know that, right? So you have to visualize it in terms of what do you want? What's the ideal situation, not what you think is possible. We always used to ask a question of kind of in a former program that I was in, when somebody would say, well, I don't know if that's possible. And the question we'd ask back was, well, is it really impossible, or is it only impossible for you? Right? Because there's people, like you said, out there right now that are killing it. Their business is up. They're doing better than they've ever done. And that's the proof that it's possible, right? So we got to visualize it for what we want, not what we think we can get.
Yeah, that's so good, because we'll lower the results we experience in our life to the level of our identity. And it's so dangerous because you could have so much more. Sometimes that's a hard concept for people to recognize, especially if you're not in tune with your emotions, you're not used to deep reflection and journaling. Here's one way that I try to create awareness for people is I ask them to envision what they want and somebody else achieving it, right? So like insert your favorite, you know, person that you follow. We talked about Les Brown, or, you know, John Maxwell's a favorite, or Amber, shout out, right? So you think about it and you're like, hey, whatever I want in a life, do I envision them being able to do it? Could Les Brown do it? Could John Maxwell do it? Could, you know, Michelle Obama do it? And they're like, yeah. And it's like, well, why do you think more highly of them than you do of yourself? And that's how we bring awareness to the identity challenges that we have. And again, the point isn't to make us feel bad about where we're at. The point is that we start to expect more from ourselves, just like we would expect more from other people.
Okay. Well, at this point, I could talk to you guys for the rest of the day. I'm thinking, how do we all clear our schedules so we can just keep talking? At this point, what I want to do is, this is a stage. We're on stage right now, and you have a global audience, and you each have a message that you really want to get out to the world. What is the one thing, like if you had one thing to say to people, what do you really want to get out? What's the message in your heart today? I know that's a big question.
I'll go. So that you matter. You matter. And I think a lot of times we get so introspective, and how is this affecting me, and what do I think, like Darrell said, I wrote like maybe 3 of his quotes already from this talk. And, you know, we bring it down to the level of our identity. Who do we believe we are? Who do we believe we're capable of being? And, you know, I would like to tell people, and again, grab them by the shoulders, look them in the eyes figuratively, and say, you matter. You're here for a reason, and it's worth doing right. You're going to give your life for something. We all do. At the end of the day, we look back at the cumulative effect we've had on the world and on other people, and we've given our life for what we did with it. And so if you're going to give your life anyways, give your life for something worth giving your life for, right? Stand for something that matters. Take a stand for something you believe in, and pursue that relentlessly, and align yourself with other people who believe that for you and with you and want the same thing, because life's too short. It just is too short to mess around doing things that don't matter. So I've taken probably more than my share of time, but that's what I would want to tell people.
I love it.
I think it, you know, kind of going off of what Isaac said, I think it comes down to, for me, one of the things I write in my planner every morning, really simple, is be your best today. I think it really comes down to creating and living as the best version of yourself. And the reason why that's so important to me is, you know, Jim Rohn used to say, Isaac mentioned Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn used to always say, if you want things to change, you have to change, right? If you want better relationships, you've got to be better. If you want to make more money, add more value, which means you've got to get better. The answer to all of the questions, so to speak, in, life and personal relationships and, money and business is, when you're better, when you focus on being the best you can be, all of those other areas of your life that you want to see improvement, those areas naturally get better because you're showing up better. You're adding more value. You're more loving. You're more empathetic. You're more of all of the best things of you. And so I approach every day kind of with that mindset. My one job today is to be my very best today. And my best tomorrow is going to be better than it was today. So I'm just going to continue to get better and better in that process of creating the best version of myself and then showing up my very best, for the people in my life that matter and the things that are the most important to me. So, that's really kind of my mission, so to speak, is to just be my best. I'm not in competition with anybody. It all comes down to being the very best that I can be in every area of my life and showing up my best for the people I love and the things that are important.
You and I have that in common, friend.
Totally. So I'd say life is about giving, and I would challenge a global audience to say to yourself, on a scale of 0 to 100%, how much of you are you giving the world? Because the world needs, wants, is waning, desiring for all of you. And the more of you give to the world, the higher your self-esteem, because you'd recognize how much the world needs you. And then I would probably close with a statement that says, hold on to your faith, don't let nobody take it. And if they talk about your clothes, don't even let it faze you. And if they talk about your looks, don't even pay attention. You ain't got to listen. They entitled to their own opinion. Here's what I discovered. It's the people who talk bad about everybody else do it to feel better about themselves, haters. So just be you and don't you worry about a thing. Them storms going to come, but dance in the rain. Keep your head up because life will try to push you down. Every smile is just a frown turned upside down. So count your blessing. You got the power to turn every loss into a lesson. So quit stressing, because bad days don't mean that you got a bad life. And sad days don't mean that you got a sad life. Bad days don't mean that you got a bad life, because you still got hope. That's what I would say.
Dude, that was badass. That is amazing. What a way to, I wish I feel like I could cut it off, but I have something else to say. That was awesome. Darryll, I don't know anybody like you. You are amazing. I seriously, I just appreciate all three of you so much. And I'm taken aback. I'm just so blessed. So here's what I'm going to end with. This is the conclusion of today's Elevate series. I'm going to, in my closing remarks, I'm going to share Isaac's message for him. Off self, on purpose. That is Isaac's thought leadership coming in. I'm all about telling people to elevate every experience. That's what I would have you focus on. I want you to elevate every experience. And in order to do that, you have to get off self on purpose. Now, one of the things that I'm personally really focused on right now in this whole vein, and I see the theme between all of us right now, but for me, it's about asking better questions. Asking a question is going to help me to connect better with somebody else. It's going to allow me to be in service of somebody else. It's going to get me off of my own crap and my own story and my own fill in the blank. The more you start to reach outward, just start by asking somebody a simple question. How are you really doing? How are you coping? How's your business? What do you need right now? What are you stressed about? What are you excited about? Literally, you could go to Google and type in best questions to show somebody you care, and you'll get all kinds of different ideas. So start there. There's no bad place to start, but just start. When you start asking better questions, you create connection, which is going to be elevating every experience. You'll be in service. And I guarantee you, with everything that I know to be true in this world, when you are of service, that comes back to you tenfold in ways that you can't even understand. And it happens fast, happens real fast. So if you're over there thinking, I wish I had more leads, I wish I had more sales, I wish I had more love, I wish I had more luck, ask better questions, focus on others, and it's going to happen pretty quickly. Appreciate you all being here very much. And I especially mean those of you who are viewing, those of you who are sharing, getting this message out. Really appreciate this No Guts, No Glory community. And we will see you guys next week on the Elevate series. Thanks for being here, everybody.